Los Angeles has a problem, a big one. The city has invested billions of dollars into building a better metro system for their city, one to integrate every corner of this massive metropolis. And yet, Los Angeles has managed to put together one of the most disconnected rapid transit systems of this century. LA is going to be tested with more and more intensity than ever before during the Olympic Games in 2028, and it has become clear that the metro system serving the city is the weak link which will eventually result in the city's failure. Even more disappointingly, go back 100 years and LA had the largest electric railway system in the world. This is the story of the rise and fall, and difficult rise again, of LA's public transit. Electric rail transit appeared in Los Angeles for the first time in 1887, with the first major merger between streetcar companies occurring in 1895, creating the Pasadena and Pacific Railway. This first major integration allowed trains to run from one end of the metropolitan area to the other. The idea of the Pacific Electric Railway was first put forward by the railway tycoon Henry Huntington, with the backing of Isaiah Hellman, a banker. Under their joint leadership, lines sprawled out from LA at a pace that would be ludicrous today. It would be easy to look at the Pacific Electric Railroad as a commuter system, but it was truly more than that. Lines were not just centered around Los Angeles, they also had hubs serving smaller outlying cities like Pasadena, Santa Monica, Long Beach, Hollywood, and San Bernardino, which all had subsystems of their own. Some routes seem random. Why does this line not connect to this other line? But no, the Pacific Electric Railroad was a masterclass in comprehensive coverage. The Pacific Electric was built backwards, compared with most rapid transit systems today. Great towns were built around these great streetcars, as opposed to thoroughly mediocre towns being built around thoroughly mediocre streetcars. This hierarchy would persist up until the peak of the Pacific Electric Railroad. Trains first, cars second. But the Pacific Electric Railroad had one major problem, and that problem was its image. The single-car trains trundling down the street were no longer seen as convenient. Why walk a few blocks to the train at either end of your trip when you could just hop in a car parked right next to your house? Besides, cars are made of metal, and those trains are made of wood. This is America. Who wants to travel in an electric tree when you have the keys to a personal rocket ship? Politicians noticed this. No more would the streetcars be the primary mode of transportation for Los Angeles. The Pacific Electric Railroad also had another major problem. They took up a lot of space. Of course, the highways that would replace the Pacific Electric would take up far more space, but in downtown, these trams could no longer take up space on the street. No, that space was needed for cars. At around this time, a shift in the perceived function of American downtowns was unfolding. City centers must now be economically productive, but must also be through passages for cars. Fast forward a few years, the Pacific Electric Railroad is firmly on the decline, and Los Angeles is being encased in a square of highways, which then link with a spider web of high-capacity roads stretching out into the suburbs. This situation is problematic for any public transit system, but other cities still make it work more than Los Angeles does. New York is full of highways, and yet the entire world still envies its effectiveness as a public transit capital. So what went wrong with the LA Metro? Look at this map of Los Angeles. Each one of these colorful stripes is a rapid transit line. Pretty impressive, don't you think? Yeah, it is pretty impressive. All of this metro stretching every which way. Well, not quite. Zoom in a little bit. Here. These are the only 2 metro lines serving Los Angeles. Out of the 125 miles making up the LA Metro, only about 25 miles are heavy rail subway. The remainder of track mileage is made up by trams, including the longest tram line in the network and the longest tram line in the world. Light rail trains are uncomfortable, small, and in no way suited for journeys LA residents are being forced to make. Nobody wants to ride a tram for 5 miles, let alone 20 miles between LA and Long Beach. But such a line can still present a use for shorter trips between suburbs. However, that cannot be said for every line of this system. This is the Metro C line. This service was opened in 1995, and it is the epitome of the ineffectiveness of the Los Angeles Metro. Starting at Los Angeles Airport, the line spends all but 1.5 miles of its length in the median of Interstate 105, before terminating in the middle of a suburb no one really cares about. This is terrible. Say you live here in Lenox, about half a mile away from the C line. You own a car, maybe 2, and you work downtown, as is the norm for a place like this. This is one of the few theoretical scenarios where taking the metro in LA would make sense. You could either take a rather unpleasant walk from your house to the station, wait for a train which comes every 10 minutes, take a train which makes frequent stops, change for a different train with equally close stops before arriving in downtown. This is terrible. Everything about that journey is corrupted by friction. But if you drive, you can use the ramp right near your house to fly down the 105, then up the 110, directly into downtown. Traffic will be a nightmare, but at least you won't have to walk to the station, wait for a train, stop at every station, and change trains. This, too, is terrible. But what matters is that it's the least worst option, and in many cases, it is the only option. Let's say you live here in Pasadena. It's only 10 miles to the city as the crow flies, but despite being close in, the closest train is about a 20-minute walk away, which is far enough for most people to just drive. So you could drive to the train, or just drive all the way, eliminating that middle step. This might be worth it if the train were a fast, comfortable, heavy rail train. But this is a tram line. Both the road and the tram have windy routes, but one of those options has to stop at every station. The other can go from point A to point B with no transfers or station stops. This is in no way arguing against public transit, but when you choose the wrong mode and bad alignments, you've created a transit network not worth using for average commuters. But it's not just commuters who will struggle to use LA's metro. What about people who need to get from the airport to the city center, for example? Los Angeles just recently opened a new light rail line to connect with the airport, but there's a slight problem. The K line doesn't go downtown, not even close. The brand new line runs from Redondo Beach to Expo Crenshaw. It connects to the C line and the E line. However, the K doesn't even directly serve the airport. For that, you need to take a shuttle train. This means that for every single person who uses transit to get from downtown to the airport, you need to take 3 separate trains. This is terrible. For a city so large, it is disgraceful to be so inefficient. It is rare to have such intense support and funding available for public transportation nowadays, especially in the United States, and particularly in a city so defined by its automobile use. But the mistakes made in Los Angeles are a lesson for every transit network. Any rail system can be large. The one in Los Angeles absolutely is. But what makes a large transit system a great transit system? Well, that is where attention to detail comes in. That is why similarly sized systems like the Washington Metro are great, and the one in LA is not. But perhaps one day that might change. Thanks for watching.